when you expand your capacity to hold your nervous system in a very curated, beautiful, coherent space. When we're regulated, when we're coherent in our own nervous systems, that really gives us the capacity to build and to architect what we're here to do without fear, without the adrenaline surge, and without having to worry about so much burning out. Now, we have to curate ourselves and we have to curate our businesses so that it doesn't create the conditions for burnout to arise. But doing that is really, to me, it's a devotion. It's a devotion to yourself, to your nervous system, to your business, to your clients, and to the planet as well. So burnout is a capacity problem. And I want to share this example with you. It was just the full moon. So in the days leading up to the full moon, usually it's no big deal to me. But this full moon was different. And a couple days before, I started feeling what I thought was really burned out. Like, that was the only label I could get at, is that I just feel burned out. I feel anxious. I feel a little bit depressed, but I feel burned out. And as I evaluated what was going on during the full moon, I realized that it was so much more than just being burned out. In fact, I think that especially if you're energy literate, we sometimes use these old words like burnout to describe something that doesn't really get at what it is. It's actually a capacity problem. At that time, for the full moon, there was so much energy coming in. There were timelines shifting, and there were old ways going out and new ways coming in. And it was just a lot. It was a lot. And the only word that I could figure out to describe it was burnout. And it wasn't. It was just my energy system, my nervous system in particular, was at capacity. And so I did a lot of sleeping. I took a bath in some salt water. I went hiking on the trails near my house. And I just took care of myself for a couple days in a way that I haven't done in a really long time. And the other thing I wanted to tell you about that is that I made a big deal of it. I made a big deal of it to myself, like, oh, what is wrong with me? What is my problem? And I think that that's pretty common among us higher performers too, isn't it? That when something goes sideways, when we're not feeling our best, we make it our problem. And I think what we're called to do right now is to really look at burnout in a different way that helps us integrate the energetics of what's going on, not just in our physical bodies, but in the environment around us, with the people around us. There's a lot going on in the world right now. And if we are going to basically blame ourselves and say that, well, I'm just burned out, when there's so much going on in the world with the government shutdown, and hopefully by the time this airs, that's over, and immigration and all the things going on, when you're highly sensitive, when you're an empath, you feel everything. So I really want to get us to a point in this episode where we can just acknowledge that there's more to the burnout than just I'm feeling exhausted. Yeah, so let's talk about how you can tell the difference between just being tired or if you're at capacity energetically. It's super nuanced. And the first thing I want to say about that is that if you're feeling tired, I want you to not label that right away. Don't say, I'm tired, so therefore I must be burned out. Let's not put a label on it. Let's be curious about it. And when we look at our lives, when we look at our nervous systems from that perspective of curiosity, from being open-minded and without judgment about what's going on with our bodies, with our minds, with our spirits, and we really start looking at the gestalt, the whole picture, we say, well, what else is going on that could be contributing to how I'm feeling today? Is this all me? Or is there stuff going on in my environment? Is there stuff going on in my relationship or with my clients or with my business or in the wider world that might be contributing to how I'm feeling right now? Chances are pretty good, if you're an empath or a highly sensitive person or somebody who's psychic like I am, that you're picking up on a lot more than just your own native energy, but your energy field, the way you're reading it, makes it feel like it's all yours. So I think that what I want to say about telling the difference is it really takes discernment. And chances are good, as I said, if you're an empath, if you're tired, you're probably hitting capacity in the nervous system. It's probably not just a garden variety, well, I'm tired, I didn't get enough sleep last night. I want to talk about the difference between expansion and contraction or collapsing of the nervous system, because your nervous system is the conduit or the channel for all of your consciousness to come through. When your nervous system is healthy and your consciousness goes into flow, when you lose track of time, you become completely absorbed and engaged in what you're doing. You're creative, you're being challenged, and your skills and abilities are always rising to meet the challenge. That can feel expansive and timeless and amazing. That's an amazing feeling. That's that expansive feeling of flow that the nervous system can sustain for a pretty long period of time, actually, especially if you're neurodiverse. However, the nervous system can collapse also. Let me give an example of that in real time. I just am running the Retreat Leaders Lab. It's for experts who are trauma informed, who are creating a new category of retreat leadership to create miracle level results. And one of the women, who is a psychologist, she has just stepped into her own practice, and she's learning this process of leading her own retreats. She messaged me. She was so excited. She got her first paid in full retreat. She was so excited. She'd never had that experience before as a psychologist. She worked for a salary. She made this much money for this much work. And it was just such a great day for her. I was very excited and celebratory for her as well. But I warned her very gently, but seriously, that the nervous system can respond to that inflow of money, especially if the nervous system has trauma, or if you're not used to receiving that much money all at one time. I mean, I know we get paychecks, but it's a different feeling when you get that money coming in for the business, for something that you love to do, and for something that you're offering for the first time. So the nervous system and the energy can actually contract, and it can actually create a trauma response in the body when you get a big inflow of cash. And the automatic response to that is to get that money away from me as soon as possible. So sometimes unexpected bill will come up, or sometimes it'll just be like, I'm going to go spend money, like one of my friends says, like a drunken sailor, right? So those are the times when, if the nervous system isn't healthy and coherent, and we get an inflow into our lives of something good, our nervous system simply can't hold it. Money is one of those things, but the energy just generally of joy or happiness or just a sense of well-being can't sustain either. And that's when the nervous system collapses. Let's talk more about money here with the nervous system, because this is a really important thing, especially for women, whether you're in a private practice or running your own business or whatever. There can be also that first time you get an inflow. I remember my first paid in full client, you guys. It was so exciting. And I made more in a day than I made in a month working at the university. And it did bring this feeling of like, I want to do this more. This is really important. And that created expansion for me. Now, what I will say about that is that my nervous system was very regulated, and I knew I could hold more. The reason I knew I could hold more was because I worked in the pharmaceutical industry for 10 years. I was used to getting bonuses and a big salary. And then that all went away when I decided, oh, well, I will go back and get my PhD and go through the routine of being a student and a postdoc and so on. And then working as a psychologist, I knew what I was coming into when I did that. But my body was also familiar with holding bigger amounts of money at one time. So that made it easy for me. But I will tell you this, there was one time early in my business when I had started my coaching practice that I had an inflow, I think of like, we'll say $32,000 within 24 hours. And it wasn't the money that got me. It was that the inflow of clients coming into my business was what got my nervous system. Because all of a sudden I had not just a handful or a boutique practice. Now I had a way bigger group of people who were coming in to work with me. And that's when my nervous system freaked out. I was like, oh, big contraction. And I ended up, somebody wasn't a good fit. So I refunded her money, and I kind of got rid of that money as fast as I possibly could, simply because my nervous system at that point couldn't hold. It was at capacity, not for the money piece, but for the responsibility of holding other people's energy and what they were expecting from me. That was actually a misstep in the business, because my business wasn't ready for that big of an inflow, and I didn't know I wasn't ready. You don't know until you don't know. But the key here is that noticing how the nervous system is responding to what's happening in the business with the money. The money comes in. How am I responding? Do I want more? Do I want to expand more? Do I want to go out in the world and talk more and have more people come in? That's great. And there's also the possibility that the nervous system is going to collapse simply because of the responsibility and the capacity that the nervous system is being asked to hold based on what's going on in the business. Thank goodness I had that experience, because now when my clients come into me and they have a big cash inflow or they have a lot of clients coming in, I have strategies and practices already in place for them to be able to move through very quickly so that their business can hold the people who are coming in and working with them. What I wish I would have done differently at the time was I wish I would have taken a breath, because a lot of times, I think early in business especially, we run on adrenaline. And that money, the cash comes in on that adrenaline flow, which when you got too much adrenaline coursing through the body is going to physically burn out at some point. That's just as part of the hormonal cycle. I didn't understand that. And at the time, I was single. I was living on my own in Scottsdale. I had quit my job at the university. It was me. And I didn't have a backup plan, which is fine to not have a backup plan. But it's also really important to be, I want to say, a good steward of the money, but it's actually first a good steward of the nervous system. And that I was not. I was not a good steward of my nervous system at that time, because it was so exciting and it was brand new. And Sheology was the hot brand at that time, and I was rising very quickly in the coaching space. But the higher I rose at that time, the more people wanted my energy, and the more they wanted to come over and talk to me. And being at a conference and not being able to go from my seat to the bathroom without 10 people coming over and talking to me might sound like a dream, and in part it was. But what I didn't understand at the time was the toll it would take on my nervous system and on my consciousness. And so I really, when I look back at that time in my life, I'm grateful for it, because it taught me a lot about how to navigate visibility, how to navigate wealth coming into the business, and also how to pass that on to the people who come in and work with me as well, so that they can learn from me without having to go through the experience themselves. And then let's talk about the big thing, is that whether we're talking about money or business, what we're really talking about is leadership. When you expand your capacity to hold your nervous system in a very curated, beautiful, coherent space, you're actually creating the conditions for other people to do the same thing. We co-regulate. Even with you just sitting here listening to me, you're hearing my voice, you're watching perhaps just unconsciously even my respiration rates, and maybe even picking up on, just my subtle cues of my own energy field, which then helps you to regulate your energy field as well. And so when we're regulated, when we're coherent in our own nervous systems, that really gives us the capacity to build and to architect what we're here to do without fear, without the adrenaline surge, and without having to worry about so much burning out. Now, we have to curate ourselves and we have to curate our businesses so that it doesn't create the conditions for burnout to arise. But doing that is really, to me, it's a devotion. It's a devotion to yourself, to your nervous system, to your business, to your clients, and to the planet as well. So if you're a clinician, a psychologist, a physician, or any expert who has in their heart that they want to lead retreats or private intensives and work with their people in the way that I work with my people, I'm offering, and I have a retreat leaders lab that we do. It's a self-paced study that you can do to get yourself on track with that. And you learn not just the how to. I don't teach you how to lead a retreat. I teach you how to energetically align and create coherence within the framework so that you can call in the right people, so that it's profitable for you as well, and so that people leave with miracle level results. So if that's you, reach out to me. Just book a call with me, drrobynmckay.com/call, and ask me about the Retreat Leaders Lab. And then the last thing I'll say is I have a new masterclass called Credentials and Codes, and it's for those experts who are ready to lead from a trauma-informed perspective, who want to offer and host retreats and private intensives. So you can get that masterclass. We'll put the link in the show notes, and you will be very happy that you will have learned how to lead retreats in a coherent way for the nervous system so you can create miracles in your life and the lives of your clients too. That's it for today. Thanks so much for joining me. If you're watching on YouTube, I'd love it if you'd subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, leave a review. It always helps me out so much. And it's so good to see you here. I will see you next time.